Right, in this last segment, I want to show you another way that we can do a full smile design. And I've already showed you some of the techniques that we can do using Liquify and bringing in other people's teeth. And frankly, I've mentioned that would be what I would do most of the time, because for me, this needs to be a quick technique, and it's really a motivational technique to get the patient to go to the next level. But like I showed you previously, we can bring in other sets of teeth that we've saved and measure and take that to a design wax up and then take that to eventually a mock-up or aesthetic prototype and hopefully the final restorations. But what we can also do is we can design on the patient's teeth, redesign the patient's teeth, and then remeasure and move gingiva and change the shape of the teeth and then look through them and see if we can do this with or without orthodontics or with or without surgery. All right, so I've got an image here of this same lady we've been working on, and we'll do this technique, redesigning her teeth. Now, same thing, you can review a previous chapter or two. We'll put some lines on, and with the lines on, I'm going to show you, we've lined up a couple of images. And the two most important images are the full face smiling and the cheeks retracted view. And then I also have now a cropped cheeks retracted view, and we're going to actually work on that image. Now at this point, what I can do is I can take away, or let's just say hide. We'll just go ahead and hide these lines. Just for some reason we might want to use them later. And then we'll hide the of her face here with the cheeks retracted. So we're just going to work on these two images, okay? This and this. All right, now what we're going to want to do now is we always want to duplicate everything just in case. So the first thing that we're going to do is duplicate the image of her retracted teeth. Okay, so let's call it retracted teeth. So let's just name retracted. So I double click on that and go retracted. Okay. And then we're going to duplicate that and just Command or Control J with it highlighted. Command if it's a Mac, Control if it's a PC, J. And it just goes copy. And what we'll do is we'll drag the copy way down here and it'll start to go off the screen. I've zoomed in a little bit on this particular one, so hopefully we can see it a little bit better. All right, so we've got a retracted, we've got a layer, and we'll call this full face. Full face. All right. And we're going to duplicate the full face too. Okay, so we're going to go with that highlighted, Command or Control J, and we've got a copy of that. All right, so there's our before copy of that. Okay, and then what we'll do is we'll leave this here, and we're going to turn that off. And because what we're going to do now is we're going to cut a hole like we did in previous sections into one of the images of the full face, so we can see the retracted view here. And we can work on the retracted view. And actually what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to bring up this retracted view and keep that right underneath there so that I can show her before and after real quickly. All right? So those are the images we'll work on. All right, so what we're going to do is on this particular view here, we're going to zoom in. And how we zoom, the fastest way to zoom, we'll bring our mouse over here, push on the Z key, that'll highlight down here. Way down in the lower left, we can come down here and push on that too, the zoom tool, or we can push on the Z key and go and click and click and click. And I'm going to zoom in really, really big. And then we're going to use one of our selection tools. And I told you before, my favorite one is the polygon, I say polygon for short, lasso tool. Click on that. The hotkey is L. So I've activated that, and we're going to click now and start our selection, and we want to select just inside, or let's say just outside the oral region. We're going to click and select about 1 or 2 pixels of the lips, unless we're going to reshape the lips. And there's going to be an area that we're going to actually reshape the lips, or take a little bit extra of the lips on the lower. And to move the image, since the image is zoomed in bigger than my canvas area here, I just take my mouse off to the right and the image will move to the left. Click, 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 and so we'll just come down just inside the cheek here, take off that little roll of tissue here, and come down off the bottom here. It'll move up. Let's move to the left. Now I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. To zoom out, Command or Control minus, Command or Control minus again. And then I'm going to center this image a little bit. You can see, Command or Control minus, that we've got a little bit of an area of an uneven smile, let's say. So we're going to even that out a little bit. To undo a point that I've set here, delete key, delete, and we go back here. Now I'm going to start shaping her lip just a little bit, like the other side, to try and make it kind of a mirror image of the other side. So when I redesign her smile line, it sort of matches her lower lip for right now. And so we don't create some confusion with the patient, so they don't see something that I don't want them to see right now. All right. At any point in time, I can zoom back in. Now I'm going real slow, so I have time to talk to you about this. Command or Control plus, and I can zoom in bigger so you can see a little better. And just inside, and capture a little bit of the soft tissue and a little bit of the lips. Okay, now I double clicked a little too soon, and you see what I did here? It closed out the selection, no problem. I'm going to zoom in here. And what I want to do now is, I made a mistake actually, so I double clicked too soon, that closed a selection. I want to highlight this again, polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going to highlight the add selection, which is already highlighted, and I'm going to start where I stopped before, which is about right here, and I'm going to start again, and I'm going to add what I didn't add before. So we need to come here, and we need to come here, here. We're adding about 1 or 2 pixels of the lip. Great. And then just come back around here. We need to add all of that, so we have to say just outside of that, because we're going to add, double click, and now Command or Control 0, we've got all of that, all that we need to erase. Okay, now I'm going to zoom in so you can see better what I'm talking about. Use the 2-finger trick to center, Command or Control minus. All right, make sure, yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, highlight this tool again. Now I could refine the edge. Let me back out of that so you see what I did. I'm with the tool highlighted, the selection tool. I come up here, click on the refine edge, and I like to smooth a couple of pixels, maybe 4 or 5, and I like to feather maybe 1.5 pixels. If I feather 1,000 pixels or 500 pixels, see what it does to the image behind there. I'll move this over just a little bit. All right, so roughly 1.5 pixels. It basically smooths the edge. Click OK. Now, what we're going to do here with this layer active, the full face layer active here, we're going to erase this. And one way to erase it, with this selected, we're going to push on the delete key. So I'm going to push on the delete key, and it just disappeared. And so we just cut a digital hole in this, and we're looking through this, and we're now seeing this retracted view up underneath here. Okay, I can turn that on and off, just a layer that's active, and we're seeing what's underneath. All right, great. That's what we wanted to do. We need to deselect now. How you deselect? Command or Control D. Command if it's a Mac, Control if it's a PC. All right, now we see what's underneath that retracted view, and then that's in the same position as teeth are pretty much, maybe they just move just slightly, but that's okay. That's okay. We're talking about a pixel or 2. I could re-rotate them if I wanted to, but not to take too long. We'll work with this. Okay, now we're going to work on this layer here, okay? We want to work on that layer here and make some changes to that layer, okay? I'm going to zoom out to her full face, so we're showing her essentially what her before is. Okay, since we took a retracted view here, this is maybe a little bit brighter than it would be. We have a little more shadow back here because we shot outside the mouth here. Here, with the retracted view, we shot inside the mouth. So I can show you a little quick trick here. You know, a selective thing that you can do if you want to selectively darken the distal just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to turn on this tool here, which we used as a dodge tool before. It's called the burn tool. Burn just means darken. So I'm going to darken the midtones with the burn tool, about 17%. I grow my brush here, And I'm working on this layer here. We'll turn that layer off. We're working on this layer here, and we're just darkening the distal here a little bit, which is what you would have happen if you had a little bit less light go back through there, like when you had the full face on like this, okay? You'd have a little bit more dark and be a little bit more believable because you'd have some shadows there, okay? All right, so we're just kind of creating about the lighting that we'd have, okay? Simple little technique. All right, now what we'd like to do is we're going to start working on this particular layer, this retracted view. We'll take away this. We just want to work on this retracted view of her teeth, and this is the same underneath here. This is just the full layer, and that's just the layer cropped. Okay, so we can leave that there if we'd like for just a second. And now what we'd like to do then is, if we're going to do a full smile design, we'd like to know what we have done in the way of proportions. All right, so in an earlier chapter, I showed you how to create teeth. I showed you how to create tracings. So since we're going to work on her teeth now, we're going to work on tracings. And so I just brought up an image here, and these have a set of tracings from 5 to 12, and we're going to bring these tracings in from this other image. I've got this image here open, this image here of the tracings open. I have this file or folder, it's actually called a group, they're all in here, from tooth number 4 to number 12, and I'm dragging them in, and you can see them there. Now let's go back to this image here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to turn off here, and you can see them now just on top of the tracings, just on top of now the cropped retracted view. All right, so I'm going to zoom in real close here, and now you can see they're oversized right now. And I know the shape of these and the size of these. These are just a little bit over 80%. They're about 81% width to length ratio as I measured them before. Obviously, this image was bigger, so we have bigger teeth. All right, so we're going to now start to size them. We're going to size them proportionally initially. How do we do that? Same skills as we've used before. With this layer highlighted, we're going to turn on the free transform. Command or Control T. Command if it's a Mac. Command T, that box comes up. And to change proportionally, to maintain proportions, I'm going to hold down the Shift and Option or Alt. Drag from a corner here and bring these down to about the size or a little bit bigger. There we go. It went too small. And you can see they're too small. I'm going to bring that little thing up there. And we're going to go in the other direction now. So sometimes you go over just a little bit. Now if I want to grow it proportionally, I do the same thing. I hold down the Shift and Option key. And so we're getting to about the size, and we know we need to lift the gingiva a little bit. Okay, on that. And so that's given us maybe some reasonable proportions there. And now at this point, what I'd like to do, let's turn on the full face, and this is an active since we've got the transform active, so let's apply our initial free transform. And how we do that, how we get out of this here, is you push on the Enter Return key, so that's now applied, and let's bring on her full face so we can look through there. Great. Okay, now we can work just a little bit. I can go back to this now and I bring up the free transform. Command or Control minus, Command or Control plus now. Now I have really made my screen very touch sensitive so I can work very fast here. Command plus, and that's what's happening. All right, now with this highlighted, Command or Control T, so I can bring that back up. And I think I'm going to lift this up just a little bit, up arrow, lift the whole thing up. All right, to about right there. And what I'm going to do is grow just slightly all of them. And that's going to maintain that proportion there, because I do need to make the teeth a little bit longer at the incisal edge, okay? So right there. All right, now this is, like I said, it was an 81% width to length ratio. So I know I can go to about a 75% width to length ratio. All right, now how I can do that then, okay, now I'm going to be free-forming just a little bit. I'm going to now change the aspect ratio. My width is okay here. All right, now I'm right on the contact here. I'm pretty good with that. Here I'm a little wider than the contact. That's okay. Here I'm the width of the canine. Here I'm going to need to widen. I'm going to need to widen a little bit. So I'm going to need to customize. But let's improve our length here down to the lip right here. Okay, great. I'm liking that better. And I might change the smile line just a little bit. All right, now with this active here, I can either work on these individually, or I can quickly, if I want to, turn on with this active, I can turn on what's called the warp function. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let me show you something. When I have this as a group, this is a group over here, the warp function is not active. I would have to make a layer. I would have to fuse this group into one layer. So that's the one thing. A warp is not active when it's a group. So I'll show you how to do that in just a second. All right, so that's about what I can get individually there, or excuse me, collectively as a group. Excuse me. All right, so I'm liking that. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to apply that now. Now what I'm going to do here is go up over here and turn this, open this group up, move this up just a little bit so that we have active now to all of these individual teeth. So tooth number 8, I'm going to activate just a little bit. All right, I think that's going to be okay. All right, I'm going to go to tooth number 6. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to change tooth number 6. So how I'm going to do that, Command or Control T. I'm going to bring the box up here, and I'm going to probably do just a teeny bit more crown lengthening there ideally. And I think I'm going to need to bring that tooth out just slightly. And I know I'm within okay ranges to do that. Okay, great. I'm going to apply that. Let's come back to tooth number 7. Free transform, that comes up. I'm going to bring this up a little bit. And so we have a little bit less gingival display. Again, I don't know what I'm going to do, if I'm going to do orthodontics or something like that, but I'm just trying to balance out the look of the teeth here. Okay, great. Now we need to work on tooth number 5. Fine. So I'm going to activate the move tool. I'm going to move tooth number 5 over, and I'm going to move tooth number 5 up just a little bit, which is okay. Probably need to do more work from the gingiva than anything there. And you can see that's going to work pretty good. And I think I need to widen that just a hair, all right, to fit in with the line that it's at right there. Okay, great. I'm going to rotate that just a little bit. Again, this is just a starting point. This is just an idea. Now I can use the free transform, the warp, since I'm in an individual layer. And what I see is I'd like to warp that over and maybe that gingiva up just a little bit. And let's go ahead and apply that. Now let's highlight tracing number 4. Let's move that over. Let's move that up, and that's starting to look pretty good now relative to the gingiva. The tooth is a little bit long at the incisal edge. That doesn't blend too well. So let's do free transform, and I'm just going to shorten it a little bit right there. And I'll move it out here so we can rotate it. You see that quarter circle there, and we'll move it over just a little bit to see if it lines up okay. And we're going to apply that. I think we're pretty good with that. All right, now if I wanted to, so let's just say I felt like I've highlighted tooth number 8. I wanted to increase a teeny bit, maybe the gull wing effect, okay? A little bit longer central, and these are little things you can discuss with the patient. Fine. Now we're at about a 75% width to length ratio. Let's do tooth number 9. Okay, tooth number 9, free transform. I'm going to want to bring the gingiva up just a little bit, so we can do that with the arrow to level it with that tooth. Okay, bring that down just a little bit. I think that's pretty good. And we'll drop it down. Excuse me, pushing the wrong way. And Command or Control Z. I had a hold of it, excuse me. All right, I double clicked and had a hold of it. Command or Control T, and I'm going to go down just a little bit. There we go, and apply it. I like that better now too. And we'll do tooth number 10, Command or Control T. I'm going to come up just a little bit with the gingiva so it lines up with the central. There it is, central and the lateral, pretty close. And maybe a pixel or two up there, maybe narrowing it just slightly. Just slightly. Okay, not that much. Mike, I think I can do that without doing orthodontics right there. I can bring the contact out to there, apply that. Now let's take number 11. I'm going to highlight number 11, the move tool, which is V. I'm going to move that in to there. Okay, I think we're okay there. And then I'm going to do the free transform. I'm going to need to narrow that canine just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to need to play around a little bit with the width of the canine. So let me bring the width in just a little bit, and I think we're well within our aesthetic percentages. I am going to need to play a little bit with this edge. How do we do that? Again, edit, transform, warp, and now I can warp this in, that embrasure form just a little bit and see if that works okay. Optically, yeah, I think it works okay. Great, enter to apply. All right, now I need to bring number 12 in. I highlight it, highlight the move tool, and let's move this in just a little bit. And I think we're going to be okay. Now what I might need to do, let's turn off the full face for a few minutes and take a look at this edge right here. All right, let's do free transform, edit, warp. Now we're going to do a little bit of a smaller embrasure here. I'm going to change this form to narrow the embrasure, flatten the embrasure so I don't have to grind so much tooth structure here. And bring that in just a little bit, and that will fit in. I think I can make that fit. All right. And we got one tooth to do, tooth number 13. And let's bring that in. And yeah, I can do that, okay? And we do need to do that. We do need to bring the gingiva up to about there. All right, now let's take a look at this. Let's bring her full face back on there and see how that looks. And, you know, that's about 2 millimeters of gingiva and a little bit on the centrals, and I think that's doable without causing too much damage. Obviously, there's other parts of the diagnosis we need to do. Find out where the where the CEJ is, whether we're going to do some orthodontic surgery or other things. But that would be a reasonable place to put the teeth and incisal edge that I think we'd get an acceptable aesthetic result. All right, now what we need to do is let's morph the teeth into this space and show her what the teeth are now going to potentially look like, her teeth. All right, now how are we going to do that quickly? Now you can see we're in this 20 minutes or so, maybe a little bit longer because I've taken time to show you on the here and gone slow so I could talk to you. All right, now what we're going to need to do is use this grid here that, now let me show you. I can move in and measure. We've already talked about how to measure. Now how do you measure? All right, you turn on the measuring tool here, double click over in the upper left here, ruler tool. All right, I can click here, hold down, measure this down. It shows me it's 190 pixels. And we could have done the math of what 1 millimeter was. Let's say 1 millimeter was 19 pixels. So if I could measure from here to here. If that was 19 pixels, I know I've added a millimeter, and that's what I would do in my wax up. I could measure from here to here. If that was 19 millimeters, I know that that's how much surgery I would need to do and or movement of gingiva. All right, so again, please review the section on measuring, so we don't have to go through that all right now, but that's how we would do it in Full Smile Design. All right, now, what we need to do though, so we can see we've got some shapes of some teeth in here, and what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take this layer here, and we're going to need to make it one, this group, excuse me, and make it one layer. Now, how do we do that? And this is so that we can select it, and there's a reason why we want to select it. So let's do this. Go look under Layer, and if you can't see it down here, the video might be cropped down here. Right down at the bottom, it says Merge Group. Merge Group. It's Command or Control E. Command or Control E. Merge Group. So Layer, Merge Group. All right, it just turned it into one big layer here. Okay. All right, great. All right, so I'm just going to turn it on and off, and you see it's one layer now. All right. One layer. Now we're going to zoom in here again, and here's what we're going to do now. What we're going to do is we're going to select that layer, okay? And how we're going to select on that layer now so that we can create a mask. We're just going to select this shape so that we can start moving in here real quickly the liquify tool. Now we could have did this freehand, and I showed you how to do it freehand without all these steps that we've taken up till now. And you can certainly do it freehand, but then you kind of lose the ability to measure. All right, so we've got a retracted copy. Got to make sure our pre-op, we'll call this retracted pre-op, pre-design, P-R-E, PSD, retracted. Okay, all right. Wonderful. All right, so we're going to turn this off so you can't see. It's not going to matter anyway when we start to work on this a little bit. Let's turn this off too, so that we're just working on this right here. All right, but what we're going to do with the tracings highlighted, we want to select the tracings. Okay, here's how we do this. We turn on the magic wand tool. If it's not here, if you see quick selection, double click, magic wand, click. Click, click. Oh, and make sure add to selection. If it's not adding to the selection, this is add to selection. Click each one of the teeth. Click, 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 scroll, click. So we've just selected all the teeth. Basically what you've done here, you've selected air. Okay, the only thing that it's selecting, the only thing it's seeing is those black lines, because you're on the layer of black lines. That's what you're on. Let me take those away. That's what it's seeing right now, okay? All right, great. Now we want to expand the selection because it's selecting just inside that. All right, now how do we do that? Select, modify, expand, and if you remember your layer was, your lines were 3 pixels from before. My lines were 3 pixels. You need to kind of remember what your lines were. So I'm going to expand 2 pixels. So watch the lines, they're going to get a little bit bigger. We're going to expand 2 pixels so it maintains everything on the outside and the lines in between kind of got incorporated between the teeth. All right, great. Now that's our selection, which will create a mask for us. That gives us our shape to change teeth to. Now what we're going to do, that's what we're going to change to, but we need to work on something. We're not going to work on the tracings, we're going to work on the retracted view. All right, with the same selection, we're just going to turn this layer on, the retracted view, and we're going to go up to the filter menu here, up at the top here, filter, and we're going to click on liquify. And what's going to come up now is a mask of the shape that you just worked on. All right, that you just traced. All right, now, what you're going to want to do is get a brush size about 1/3 of the size of the tooth to start with. There we go, about 1/3 of the size of the tooth. You can come up to the brush size in the upper right and click on this and move that arrow right or left to change the brush size. You might not be able to see that. I'll move it over here just a little bit. Here's the brush size right here. Okay, I'll leave that right there. Or you can do to the right of the P key. I'm pushing to the right of the P key, the brackets. I'm up, a right bracket, left bracket, okay? Now, your movement, I just made a mistake, Command or Control Z, your movement should be either vertical, horizontal, so click and drag, and it's just dragging and duplicating to structure, or whatever was underneath it. It's dragging what's underneath it. So I want to drag this papilla up. We'd like to move the papilla up there. If you make a mistake, Command or Control Z to go backwards. All right, so let's do the gingiva on this side first. Click and drag the gingiva up. Now it won't go any farther than the mask. It's like masking and painting. The mask stops the paint. Okay, this is right, okay. We'll change the shape of the teeth here in a minute. We can start there a little bit. You don't want to move in a zigzag pattern. Okay, this is called, I'm going to move this back over here so you can see what tool I'm working on. This is called the forward warp tool. It's up to the left here, it looks like a finger. All right. The reason why I'm dragging straight up and down is so we maintain those reflection lines the same. Now, or straight horizontal if I'm widening the teeth. We wanted to widen that canine a little bit. We can kind of see the outline form of the canine that we want to have right there. That's about right there. Now if we want smaller adjustments, you shrink the brush down, and we'll only wanted a little bit of this line angle right there. Command or Control Z. Need to be small. I didn't like that little adjustment. All right, let's grow this. Since we're getting to a smaller area of the mouth here, so we want that papilla to come up here. Now again, this is not a treatment plan. This is a design. You know, you might not choose. This might not be a situation where you're going to cut or cut bone. Maybe it's too much. You're going to do your diagnostics with radiographs and things like that and decide whether this is going to be periodontal, maxillofacial, or orthodontic, or a combination of the three. What is going to be in the best biologic interest of your patients, okay? But at least you know where you want to end up with the shape of your teeth before you get too far into this. And at least you get pre-approval from the patient. Now, okay, now we'll start working on the shape of the teeth. This is about the shape that we want. So we're looking for certain proportions, and we measured our proportions, so we know that these are reasonable proportions for this particular woman. All right, and so I'm just working on the outline form. So I'm just redesigning her teeth now. Remember what I said, I want to move either straight vertically, straight horizontally, or straight diagonally. Now, I showed you in another section, you can do this without this mask. You can just freehand this and eyeball this if you want to, but then you can't measure it very easily, what you've done. But if you're in a quick hurry and you just want to show somebody in 2-3 minutes, hey, to get them excited, give them a before and after print or a before and after digital file, it's a great thing to do maybe at a hygiene visit or something like that. Okay, so we've got sort of 6 teeth redesigned here. Oh, forgot the central here. Let's get the central. Command or Control Z, didn't want to do that. So let's bring this down here, this edge here. Now, I mentioned in another section that your smile design photography ideally should be with the teeth slightly separated. And I purposely did this on this case to show you how to fix images if there was a problem, rotations and things like that, which we showed in an earlier section. All right, so we need to still come up a little bit with the gingiva here. Now I can come in and out of this anytime I want to. And there's going to be a reason why we want to do that, okay? All right, great. And we'll back out of this in just a second here. All right, so we've done really half the mouth of the design of the teeth. And we can move the line angles just a little bit, the reflection lines, to make the teeth look a little bit. And we can tweak it more later. So let's click OK. All right. All right, now at this point we can hide the selection. All right. And I don't need the tracings. All right. So let's just hide those for a second, turn those off. Command or Control H, and it's got to hide the selections, okay? All right, and you can see it's a little bit ratty on the edge, but we'd show her a full face view anyway, so she wouldn't see it that close, so that wouldn't be a potential issue. I'm gonna back out Command or Control 0 and then put the face on. All right, full face on, and you can show her like with half the mouth done. All right, now you can save that. All right, now this is half the mouth done, and then I can duplicate that, Command or Control J. We've just duplicated. Okay, great. So now I can show her a before and after with half the mouth done, okay? Like that. Let me zoom in so you can see that. I can show her before and after with her, we'll put her lips on, and I could do it like this, before and after, okay? Now the next thing we might want to do is then show her with bleaching. How do we digitally bleach? So I would show her processes like this. Next thing we would do is digital bleaching. My favorite way to digital bleach is to use what's called the Dodge tool, okay? So we're going to use the Dodge tool on this particular layer here, and we'll turn that on with the mid-tones up here, the exposure about 18 to 20%, and we're just going to come along here and click just a little bit, and click just a few times, and I would back out just a little bit so you see a full face, so it looks realistic. Up close you can get kind of an artificial lightening that might look okay up close, but not good like that. So about something like that. All right, so I've done half of her mouth, and so that's basically how I would present to her. I would present to her, I say, well, here's how you walked in. Here's what we could do. Let's just wanted to show you half of the mouth, okay? And then let's go ahead and duplicate this layer here again. Oh, my bad. Cancel. Let's go back now to this selection. And sometimes if it was deselected, let's say it happened to deselect, which sometimes can happen if you can start working on other things. So let's deselect it. So how would you reselect it? Click on this layer highlighted, click, 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 click. Here we go, select, modify, expand, 2 pixels, click OK. Now sometimes that happens when you leave a layer, it deselects. And why would you leave a layer? Is you want to copy the layer because you'd like to show people intermediate steps. All right, so let's zoom in here. All right, now we're going to do the other side. So what we're going to do, we're going to filter, liquefy. Let's just do this really fast. My bad. Why did that happen? Well, I'm going to leave this in the video. It happened because I brought up the liquefy on the tracings, not the retracted copy. I want to work on the retracted copy. I want to work on this other side here. Now, so we've worked on this side. Now we need to work over here, right? That was my mistake. That's okay. That'll happen. Now, when you do this, when you do the full smile design, until you've done this about 10 times, I would not do this in front of the patient because you can get stuck. It took me a little while to master this. Like I said, I started on this in 2004, and I would say it took a couple years before I felt comfortable doing this level in front of a patient. Little minor movements with liquefy or bringing in someone else's teeth, no problem. That I got that fairly quickly. I would have this done all beforehand, and I would present it the next chapter, or if you've already watched it, watch the chapter on presenting to the patient. That is, I present in Photoshop. You can certainly present in a presentation program, but if you're in Photoshop, the wonderful thing about being in Photoshop, patient says, hey, that's good, but could you make that a little lighter? Hey, that's good. Could you square that corner? Hey, that's good, but could you round that corner? You know, we've all been there. You can do it very quickly in Photoshop. If you're in a presentation program like Keynote or like PowerPoint, not so easy to do. In fact, you can't do it. There's some things you just can't do. So what you'd have to do is you'd have to leave the program, go into something like Photoshop, and then come back into into your presentation program. Again, the real power of this is education, digital test drive. In the past, we would tell people, they just wouldn't understand us. If you think about your buying patterns, every time you go to buy clothes or a nice car, the most motivating thing to get that car or that nice dress or that nice suit is trying it on and fitting it to yourself. That's all we're doing, is we're doing a digital fitting here. That's all we're doing here. We're fitting the teeth digitally to the patient, letting them see, taking it home, giving them a copy of it, letting them show their significant others, letting them think about what they might or might not want to do with it. All right, great. So let's click OK. All right, we'll zoom back out now. All right, now we can deselect. All right, we're going to turn off the tracings. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. And what we're going to do here, now these are her teeth, all right? So great, we were just working with her teeth, and she's stuck. Can you do a little more, a little less? Look, absolutely, we can tweak now a little bit. And this was before, after, that's step one, step two. There's one, step two. And now we can look, we can merge these layers together, but we can look through both of these layers. All right, I'll show you how I do that in just a minute, but let's do our digital bleaching. I'm going to turn that back on. Want to be careful with digital bleaching. You don't want to overdo it. So I'm feeling pretty good we can do this for her. And this is pretty much what we did do. We ended up doing surgery. She had delayed passive resorption. So we crown lengthened it to the CEJ, and we lengthened the incisal edge. And of course, we managed her occlusion. All right, let's back out now. That's what she liked, that's what she accepted. So she accepted some crown lengthening and basically 10 veneers. All right, she was fairly reasonable. Now we can measure all that. Now how would we measure? Let's zoom in real quick here. All right, and how would we determine if we need orthodontics? Let's take a look at these. We're going to make this 50% transparent, that layer there. We'll make this one 50% transparent roughly. Okay, how do we do that? Let's look up here at the opacity slider. I highlight the layer, and let's all right, maybe 7% was. Did I have oh, I had too much. I had a double layer there, excuse me. Okay, so I had to go down quite a bit over here. All right, and this particular layer two layers on top. Okay, double basic layer. All right, so we can measure this, right? I can look through here, so I could tell her, okay, that I measured this was 10 millimeters. I created a digital length by using this tool over here, and then we can just measure exactly the number of pixels here. And again, review the measuring aspect, and then we'll know, is this 3 millimeters, is it 3.5 millimeters? Then that will transfer to our wax up. We can see that we need to move the contacts a little, so that I think we can do this part restoratively. This part clearly we're going to need to do surgically. So I don't think that relative to the incisal edge, we don't need orthodontics. Relative to the contacts, we don't need orthodontics. The gingival line, we're going to need surgery and or orthodontics, and we just ended up doing surgery. So this is how we do it. The full smile design using the patient's teeth. Now, honestly, this is the one that I use the least because it takes the most time. I think we were probably into this close to an hour for me to explain this to you.